Welcome to the Water Energy Education Alliance Leadership Roundtable number 13. My name is Tiffany Baca. I am the Executive Director of the Water Energy Education Alliance, and I'm also the Public Affairs Manager of the Municipal Water District of Orange County. And we actually administer and lead the Water Energy Education Alliance, along with a lot of our wonderful sponsors. So thank you for joining us today. Please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know who you are and where you hail from. This is an interactive meeting. It always has been. We encourage you to have conversations in the chat that enrich the presentation and enrich your experience here today. So we'll never host this as a webinar. And while you're using the chat to introduce yourself, I'm going to give a shout out to our 2022-23 WEEA sponsors: the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, Eastern Municipal Water District, Water Replenishment District, Western Municipal Water District, and then we also receive significant support from the California Environmental Education Foundation, Big Picture Learning, and California Community Colleges. And at 9:01, we're just going to move on because we're talking about guidelines, and the guidelines don't typically change, but if you're new to the meeting, we always like to introduce them, and it's a good reminder for those who have joined us in the past. Closed captioning is available for anybody who might need it. That's been enabled for you. In the Zoom app, please make sure your name is correct and include your organization if you can, and you can take a look at my name and organization just to kind of get familiar about what we're looking for. It's just easier if you have a question for us to call on you instead of using whoever's name is on the computer you're using. So if you could help us out, that would be incredible. We do ask that participants remain muted unless presenting or asking a question, although please keep that chat going, help each other out, answer questions, support each other, drive the conversation in the chat. That's perfectly fine, but reserve the chat for comments. If you have a question for myself or anyone that's speaking today, our panel, please raise your hand via the Zoom application and we'll call on you. So those are our guidelines. Typically, I start this meeting by introducing our support, our WEEA support team. I also introduce myself and I talk about something about my job that inspires me, because it always is helpful to remember first, keep it top of mind what drives us in this work and what we need to be telling others and students and military who want to join our industry what's so great about our jobs. And it's not just the things necessarily that inspire us, but it's the actual things that we love about our job. And unfortunately, our general manager, MODOC's general manager, passed away about a week and a half ago due to a long and courageous battle with cancer. I'm bringing this to you today for a couple of reasons. He was such an inspiration and dedicated his life to the water industry. You can see his long career history. I won't get into that now, but he spent almost a decade as our general manager. In addition to his day job, he was a board member of Water for People, which is an international organization to address the water shortage crisis and ensure that we're working towards providing clean, fresh, available water and sanitation for people all across the globe. This is his dedication. He also was very active in Stand Up for Kids, and Stand Up for Kids is a national organization working to get to address homelessness in teens. And this is really important because it tells you who this person was. And for us, everyone on the call today, when I was first approached to assume leadership of WEEA in 2020, and this is January 2020, we all know what happened the months following. I had to talk to my general manager before we proceeded. And so the first person I had to convince that this was a good idea, because it seemed at the time strange for someone like a water district, just an Orange County water district, to assume the responsibilities of something like WEEA. But knowing what my vision was and knowing what his vision was, I knew that he wouldn't be someone who would let this opportunity pass by, and he wasn't. So The following 4 months, as COVID unraveled and we began to deal with what that looked like, and we're in a time of uncertainty and upset, I spent the next 4 months going to committee meetings and board meetings to convince our board that this was something that we needed to do. And our general manager, Rob Hunter, stood behind me every step of the way. And he is one of the reasons that we're all here today in this fashion. So we're going to do a couple of different things. The MODOC Public Affairs team does host a water policy forum and dinner quarterly. And this one is coming up on February 9th. And we're going to remember our general manager. We have Adon Ortega, the current chairman of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, as our panel moderator. And he's going to bring in other water leaders to discuss topics that Rob dealt with during his career and topics that were near and dear to his heart. So we hope that you can join us. We have dropped in a link to our invitation in the chat, but we'll send all of this out when we conclude the meeting. And if you can't join us, if you knew Rob or your leadership knew Rob and you wanted to send a message or a memory, our team is collecting those and we're going to package them in a gift for his family. So if that's something that you'd like to do, please send those commemorations to publicaffairs@modoc.com. Our agenda today: welcome and introductions. We're actually moving quite along, so I'm going to do a leadership update a little early. Our whole panel is here, so if we get started, that's not a problem. We have about 80 people who have registered for this meeting and who have supplied a lot of questions. So we have a lot of content to go through, but always, raise your hand if you have a question as we move through this. We're very excited at 9:25 or a little earlier to introduce our panel, and it's one of our sponsors. We haven't done a sponsor spotlight yet. This is our first sponsor spotlight, the Water Replenishment District, and they've got a great presentation with a wide range of panelists to talk about what an internship program looks like, from idea to working employee. So that's something that we haven't heard before, and we're going to hear from everyone from the start to the finish, and we're excited about that. At 10:10, we're going to have a sponsor spotlight Q&A. So you'll have all your opportunity to answer questions. I have some again from registration. At 10:30, we'll take a 5-minute break since we're closing today at 11. And then at 10:35, we'll do good news and announcements. So if you have something to share, I have a couple people I'd like to call on that have had some massive things to share, and see if they're here today and they'd like to share those, but then we'll open it up for everyone else. And then at 11, we'll close and acknowledge our sponsors again. Moving on to our leadership update. This is really, really exciting for me. We've been talking about the statewide water and wastewater survey with the Centers of Excellence for Labor Market Research for over a year. It took almost a year to get everything worked out for them to agree to do this. This is something that WEEA initiated, and we've brought this to you before, but we're very excited that it's taken a year to gather the data that's needed. The State Water Resources Control Board sent out our survey, so we have over 600 responses. That report is now in the final round of edits. It's going to the designer soon. It will be published the week of March 13th, and I just received confirmation yesterday that March 28th will be hosting our next leadership roundtable meeting, and it will feature the Centers of Excellence for Labor Market Research. They're going to talk about what went into creating the report, what the report findings were, and what their recommendations are for the water industry and workforce development. So we're thrilled about that. We are already booking conferences. This is a very big deal for all of us, because we'll now have data that supports the work that we're doing here at WEEA and the work that's being done across the state, as more and more of our industry people retire and are leaving big gaps in knowledge, expertise, and workforce. So that presentation is happening on March 21st and this 28th, and this group receives the first presentation. So you'll give our team a couple of days to put together an invitation. We'll send out a flyer. You guys mark the date, and then we'll send out a flyer that you can share with your networks. It's going to be a really interesting leadership roundtable. The water and energy career brochures that we shared with you back in October have been distributed statewide, have been used. I just keep hearing from people how they're using them, which gives us a lot of confidence that we did the right thing by creating them. You can find the English brochures on modoc.com/WEEA today. However, we have now had them translated into 8 additional languages. So we have English, Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Armenian, Tagalog, Farsi, and Russian. And all of those languages were submitted to us for consideration by our sponsors. So these are the languages that are being used across the state. And now we are opening up this great opportunity to families who also may not have known these careers existed. So give us a couple of days also. We've had these translated, run through a translator, since we don't speak these languages fluently. They've gone through, they're now in their 3rd round of review for translation. We've used just different translation services to make sure that, it's not just the same, that maybe there's different ways to consider how the words are being used. So those will be available this week. And again, they're free to everyone. They can be personalized with your logo. We've heard that people have posted the English on their web pages across social media. They've shared them with schools and community partners at special events and career fairs and alongside job listings. Obviously, if you have other ways to use them, these are yours to use. And if you wanted to see what the English version is, they're available right now on modoc.com if you haven't already been using them. And finally, for our teacher trainings, those 2 were really big things that we're excited about. We have also sponsored and are partnering on teacher trainings. So our first actually is, February 25th. Both of these start on February 25th, working with the California Environmental Education Foundation and their annual online teacher training, their Teacher Institute. This is open to all Southern California teachers. I just heard this morning there are still spots available. There is a nice stipend involved for teachers as a bonus. They receive a whole bunch of incredible things and tools and resources and training about how to introduce water topics into their lesson plans and how to introduce water careers into their lesson plans. So we're training teachers because teachers are at the core of reaching some of these students. And
can I add something?
Certainly, Walter, please.
Hi, I'm Walter Zeisel. I'm the Manager of Education Outreach at the Department of Water and Power, but I'm also President of CEVA. Just want to mention that basically, with funding, the Institute is open to teachers right now in LA and Orange counties. So if there's another county that there's teachers in another county, we need sponsors from those areas to cover it. So it's basically running around $1,000 a teacher. And on average, so that's sort of what we're looking at. So if you come in with a few $1,000s, we can certainly open. We look at this, as eventually going statewide, but we need the funding. We do have some sponsors that cover more regions, but basically our commitment now is LA and Orange County. And if other areas come through, we're talking to one of the agencies in Northern California. If we have some funding from there, we would glad to conclude it. We have about spaces for about 60, and we have space still now. And like I said, like she said, like Tiffany said, the first session starts February 25th, and there's a stipend of $575. If and one of the things that's exciting is there's several requirements. There's a stewardship requirement. Teachers develop their own lesson, require their own environmental lesson. They become WET certified, among other things. So we're very excited about it. We've got a real top-notch institute director, Maria Laws, and so we encourage you in LA and Orange counties to, if you can share this with your networks, or if you're in a school, we'll look forward to you maybe signing up.
And Walter, can I ask if there is another region who's interested in hosting teachers? Who should they reach out to for sponsorship?
Or they can reach out to me, or Maria Laws, or, probably just let me know, or,
Perfect.
or Bill Andrews. But,
Okay.
I'm, I can put my email address in the chat if that helps.
Perfect. That helps
Let
a
me
lot.
know, and we're glad to, if there's other areas here represented. I saw that there's I saw Ignite is participating. In fact, Maria Laws, who is the director of the Institute, worked for Ignite last summer. So we're all tied together. I'll put
We sure are.
my email address in the chat here.
Thank you, Walter. I appreciate the clarification and for providing a contact. Our next teacher training, which starts on the same day, is a project with San Diego and USGS and Project WEEA. So it's the same type of training. While the CEF training is online, this will be in person, and primarily it's for the San Diego region. So we're dropping a flyer in the chat for that as well.
And
again,
Tiffany, if I could, I'd love to elaborate slightly.
Is this Kurt?
That's Kurt.
Awesome, please do.
So with Tiffany's very generous help and patience over the last few years, we've got our San Diego piece launched. And this is an in-person event, an exciting chunk of time where we're going to mix traditional science, biology, and chemistry teachers with CTE teachers, all in a room with water professionals from across both the trades, which we're having some trouble recruiting, but I'm going to continue to work on that, and with college-educated water professionals from USGS. So it's going to be at least 5 of them in the room with us that day. There's a couple of different follow-ups, and this is free to teachers. We haven't come up with the money for stipends yet, although we do have stipended trainings through another funder, the California Department of Water Resources. And Project WEEA thematic trainings are available statewide. Southern California or Central California would be myself as your contact. Otherwise, you'd be working with a gentleman named Brian Brown up in Sacramento. So come join us in San Diego for actually what is the second of 2 trainings that we've done in the county already in the last couple of months. And there'll be a couple follow-ups as well. You'll get all sorts of lovely goodies and have a great experience in person.
Thank you, Kurt, for again elaborating. We do have the flyer that's going in the chat. Kurt, if you wouldn't mind putting your email address for those that can't join the San Diego Project WEEA USGS teacher training but want more information, that would be great. I'm sorry, Kurt, you're on mute.
And there is one other training that's along the same career exploration in the water trades in Morro Bay, California, and I'll send that date out to everybody as well. If you're a little further north in the region, that might be more pleasant.
Appreciate that, Kurt. And for those on the call today, WEEA has grown significantly. We have 80 registrants today from across the state. So if they couldn't join us today, we always have a recording, and I've already had requests for that recording. So all of this, even when we're talking about opening it up for our SoCal members who have been around since WEEA's inception in 2018, this might seem a little strange, but we've grown outside of our box. And so we do look for other opportunities to partner with people across the state who can also help move the work that we do forward and provide support and resources for that. So I'm just very grateful and very nice to see you, Kurt. We'll move on to our sponsor spotlight, the Water Replenishment District. From in the classroom to on the payroll, the WRD PERC Water Internship Program. And this is a topic that I've heard a lot of excitement about. We've gotten a lot of emails. Again, some folks that couldn't join us are really looking forward to the recording following this. And we have the Water Replenishment District here, representatives from Water Replenishment District, PERC Water, and Los Angeles Trade Technical College. And we're just going to call them LA Trade Tech. My understanding is all of our panelists are in the room. So I'd like to introduce them before we show you their faces and let them get started. We are very fortunate to have Director Sergio Calderon, the board director of the Water Replenishment District, here today. He agreed to join us, and I know that this is something that a question that has come up over and over again: how do we get leadership support? And Director Calderon is going to give us, from his perspective, what the Water Replenishment District is doing, why it's a priority, and perhaps how to garner support from your leadership. And then we have Monica Sider, the Senior Public Affairs Representative from Water Replenishment District, who's had her hands in the dirt since the beginning, trying to work out all of the details that are needed to go through launching an internship program like this. So she's got a lot of insight to give us. Steve Sato, the Chief of Operations for PERC Water. Bert Mantilla Jr., Advanced Water Treatment Operator with PERC Water. And Bert was an intern through the Water Replenishment District internship program, and he is now a working person at PERC Water. So what does that look like? We're going to find out in just a minute. Dr. Virgil Shields, Professor of Process Technology and Physics, LA Trade Tech. My understanding is John couldn't join us today. He's been an active member of WEEA for a while, but that's perfectly fine because we also have Dr. Rachel Harper, who's a professor at LA Trade Tech. So I'm going to stop sharing so you can see our panel, and we're going to get started with Director Calderon. And each of our panelists today has some information that they'd like to share. We don't have Director Calderon for very long. He does have another engagement. So if you have questions, this is the one time that we're going to stop to ask questions of one of our panelists. Director Calderon, do you want to start today?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. So I'm just going to set up how it is that, at least in my perception, the partnership between PERC Water and WRD came about. And of course, this partnership also involves various colleges, LATTC, Downey Community, Long Beach Community College, and others. And so anyhow, it was 2019, pre-pandemic, right? And through my role as a teacher advisor at the Los Angeles Unified School District Division of Adult Career Education, circumstances arose where we had the opportunity to work alongside LATTC to seek out SWP grant funding. That's strong workforce project funding. And I'm sure you're all pretty familiar with it, but in case somebody is not. So SWP funding essentially is funding comes from the state of California. And I think one of its primary purposes is to help disconnected youth to reach what they call middle skill jobs. And these are jobs, careers that do require usually a high school diploma, but usually not necessarily a degree. Maybe CT certification or some sort of licensure may be required, but not necessarily a degree. So anyhow, we're working on this, pretty passionate about this. We're moving along. And then this good looking, very charismatic and charming young man, Lou, from LATTC, I forget his last name, approaches WRD. Let me click on my camera here really quick. Approaches WRD and says, hey, look, we're LATC, we have all these great programs, and we're helping all these young adults and adults of all ages really, and we really need to make our way into different industries. Well, the water industry was highlighted, but have these students go in and have opportunities for internship, because with solely education and no experience or very little experience, it's just not an optimal position to be in when you're going out to gain employment in the workforce. So, that caught our attention. We did offer Lou and some of the LATTC professors a tour of the ARC Center. And, it was just a fascinating time. We got to learn about each other. And I would say that was very much the birth of what we call the ad hoc committee for future water workforce. I went to President John Allen, said President John Allen that we, I think W is an important role doing what we do, safeguarding our aquifers, safeguarding our water supply. But, in safeguarding our water supply, we also need to keep into account what's happening right now, right? And what we believe is happening is that many of the people that are in force right now are in the process of retiring. I think I heard that earlier today. And, it doesn't seem like there's a replacement workforce, a qualified replacement workforce or a pool to draw from available. And that this resonated with me, not only because, I felt that the industry was saying so, but also the state of California was saying so. As a matter of fact, that's, one of the premises behind the SWP Strong Workforce Project funding. So, in the style of Director Allen, President Allen, he said, "Yeah, let's do this. Let's put an ad hoc together." And we will start with LATTC. They've been a partner from the beginning, of course. Long Beach joined shortly after, and then after Long Beach and LATTC, we've had additional partners, join us, and that's the genesis of it. I don't have the numbers, but I know that we've with the help of PERC, we have placed a few people in internships, and out of those few people, a large percentage of them have actually now gained employment. I know that we have Mr. Shepard, who's going to be talking a little bit later about this. But that's essentially it. That's how it came about. We're proud to to make this happen. We're proud to work and collaborate with our partners. We know that it's a small step, right? But it's a step in the right direction. It's the right trajectory. We look forward to magnifying our efforts, to making it a bigger program. We look forward to bringing more partners on board, and we look forward to work with any and all organizations, agencies, public or private, and stakeholders that help prepare folks for careers in water, entry level and otherwise. We look forward to provide more internship opportunities, and which hopefully lead to permanent placements and the start of great and bright careers. So with that, if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer.
I know one question that's come up an awful lot is how do you have any recommendations for those of us who are looking to make that first step, that haven't yet but are inspired by your story? How do we approach leadership and get them interested and excited about workforce development and creating an internship program like what you have? What are some suggestions you have for us?
Yeah, I suppose that I was fortunate to have a work experience which helped me view a very real need, or recognize a very real need. As I'm sure is the case with all our partnering agencies and organizations, WD has an incredible staff with incredible capacity, and they do a fabulous job of getting leadership's attention. I'm an elected director. There's so many things coming at you at all different times that it's difficult at times to focus on very real issues that need perhaps somewhat urgent attention. But our staff, I work very closely with all staff, but I think particularly with external affairs, they take time to inform us. They take time not only to make a claim, but to back it up with primary sources. And these are the statistics being reported here, and look at our partners are saying this, and they're corroborating what's. And so I had no choice but to recognize that in fact this is a real concern. And as an elected, oftentimes whenever something goes wrong, whether it falls under the purview of the agency you represent or not, like WRD, the constituents oftentimes blame you, and it's great when you get blamed for it, right, or you get credit for it. But when it's a bad thing and you get blamed for it, and you really think that you don't have any control over it, of course, it's a negative thing. So we try, the board very much tries to take a broader view that are very exact, and anything that we see can hinder the delivery of water to the residents, the water availability to the pumpers, which are our stakeholders. We take very serious, and we do our best to try and resolve it and mitigate it. And again, when we start something, I make it a point not to wait till it's perfect and we have all the answers. Sometimes one needs to start, and once you get the trajectory going, partners start jumping in and collaborating, and it's some good results start to occur. Some good outcomes start to come about. So that's my answer to your question.
That is a great answer. And I think I can speak from experience, similar to what I was talking about earlier, assuming leadership of WEEA during the start of a massive pandemic. Get your ducks in a row. Make sure that you have the facts that you need. Talk to interested partners, bring others to the table that can help support your claims. I think in empowering our leaders to have all of the information that they need to make the best decisions. And that's kind of what I'm getting from you, whether they have a background or a history in really being familiar with workforce development. I'm hoping that our report findings that come out very, very soon will help also support your claims when a board member can see actual numbers that point to the cause and guide them in making the best decisions for our agencies. I think there's nothing more powerful that we can do for them. If I said that correctly.
You said it better than I. Thank you. And one more thing is that we did discover a nuance, right? So there are some people getting certificates. There are some people, getting the water operator different tier certificates. But also, what I learned is that pumpers usually don't want to bring anybody on board with zero experience, right? And precisely this is where the internship aspect, in collaboration or in partnership with PERC has been a great help, because now, even though it's internship experience, it is experience, and hopefully this paves the way for a new career.
That's actually a really great point, because I think we've all seen that when it comes to our HR folks who are trying to fill those positions, and our managers, our hiring managers who are looking for someone with some experience. So you don't have to make the investment. What you're doing is really leading the way and showing the rest of us that you can invest in young people and give them the opportunity that they need, so that we're all rising together. So thank you for seeing that as a leader and making that decision, because you're really paving the way for all of us. Do we have any other questions for Director Calderon in the chat? Okay, perfect. It looks like we'll be able to let you go about your busy life. But again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. A pleasure, folks. Take care.
Bye-bye. Okay, next up we have Monica Sider. Monica, what's your story?
Oh, good morning, everyone. My phone just happened to ring and I can't shut it off. But anyway, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Monica Sider, and I am a senior public affairs representative with the Water Replenishment District. I'm going to kind of, I guess, repeat a few of the things that Director Calderon did mention. The partnership with PERC Water, Rio Hondo, Long Beach, and LA Trade Tech was initially initiated to fill a need that was missing in the water industry. Many people are unaware that there are operators that maintain and oversee a water treatment facility, and therefore it does not get much interest unless you know someone in that industry already. So when I was approached by Lou, who works closely with LA Trade Tech, there seemed to be a solution to what we were seeking. I got in contact with Lou and two other professors, Rachel being one of them. Thank you, Rachel, for logging on, from LA Trade Tech. And we were able to tour ARC and discuss possible solutions that would begin to fill a need for water operators in the industry. In attendance of this tour were also Director Sergio Calderon and Eric Gonzalez from PERC Water, who was unable to attend today, but we have Steve, who is a great replacement for Eric. After the meeting with Director Calderon, he insisted on developing an ad hoc committee that would allow these entities to meet and discuss ways to get students to want to, become water operators, or be introduced to careers in the water industry. As we began getting ready to start the ad hoc, Director Calderon and our AGM, WRD's AGM, Rob Bestie, suggested others who might be interested in being a part of this new ad hoc. And that is how we got Long Beach Community College and Rio Hondo Community College involved. These schools all have students who take chemistry or biology courses or engineering courses. And some of them realize that maybe college four-year degree isn't for them. So we were thinking, hey, this is another option. You just, take a few courses, get a certificate, and you have a well-paying job at the end of the course. So we were hoping that this might, these schools, that they get an interest in becoming a water operator or just another career in the water industry. For the goals and objectives of the program were to make a direct connection with students, teachers, create pathways, internships, and jobs to career options in the water industry. And the goal is just to expand the program to include other water agencies that also feel there is a need to fill these jobs that are going to be needed in the future.
I've changed my mind. I think I'm going to ask every single panelist this question so it doesn't get lost in the end, because I'm sure we'll have a flurry of questions. What advice do you have for people today who are joining us in your position to get something like this started? What steps did you take to get your leadership support? What advice do you have? How do we, in your position, accomplish what you've been able to accomplish so far?
I think persistence is something. Director Calderon did mention that in the beginning, and thankfully, Lou, Rachel, they were someone who, they kept contacting us saying, how can we help? How can we get involved? And then I was like, ooh, who do I talk to? Director Calderon was he's one of the directors that is involved. He is an educator by trade. So he was the perfect director to approach for this program. So when I kept insisting, where I was like, okay, these are the things that we can do, and how, him and I would sit and try to, really create a plan to take to these professors and say, like, this is what we can offer. Because we weren't, in the beginning, I'm going to be honest, it wasn't like, maybe we shouldn't have interns at ARC, so that's where Perk Water came in, and it was like, well, they can pay the interns and they can use ARC as, a training facility. So that's kind of how, that's my advice. It's just persistence and just having all of the facts and, letting them know that there are people who are interested, who want to work with WRD to fill these needs that for, careers in the water industry that are definitely needed.
I love that. And I've been told that it's called tenacity. And I've experienced a lot of eye rolls and sighs myself, but if it's something that's important and it's something that matters and can make a change, and you have the partners, we can't, the whole reason WEEA is here and exists the way that it does is one person, even with good intentions, cannot do this work alone. So the more you reach out to your partners, the more you know it's a great idea, your partners support that. Don't give up, even though sometimes it can be challenging. I'm sure, Monica, you have experienced challenges along the way.
Yeah, and just to kind of talk about some of the challenges. Some of the challenges have just been really, how can we help more? I just went to Lakewood High School yesterday to give, to talk about careers in the water industry. And I always talk about the two pathways. You can go to a four-year college and become a public affairs representative or an engineer or a hydrogeologist. But then, school isn't for everyone. So you have this other option. And, water operators get paid pretty well, right from the start. So it's, just getting that information out there has kind of been a challenge. There's only one person. And, Jen is very helpful when I have, hey, Jen, can you disperse this to all of your educational contacts? So it's definitely that's one of the challenges. Another one is getting everyone in the same room, to talk about the challenges that we have, that, just any type of challenge that we might have, or things that we just can't get over, like what can we do to help these students, or what can we do to create a better program.
Awesome. Well, we need you to do that. Again, as I said to your director, you're leading the way, and I know from experience, and I'm sure you've experienced this, there are a lot of folks who are intimidated by going to leadership or intimidated by hearing no. But sometimes even if you hear 10 no's, it's that one yes that's going to change everything. So thank you for not giving up.
Oh, I did hear a lot of no's, but
I
so yes.
can believe it. Okay, thank you, Monica. We'll get back to you with questions. I think we're going to go to Steve Sato next. Steve.
Yes, hi, I'm Steve Sato. I am the Operations and Maintenance Manager for PERC Water. We oversee 2 of WRD's AWTF facilities here, one in Pico Rivera, the other one in Long Beach. I wasn't directly involved with the planning or implementation of the internship program, but I do work directly with the interns and with our operations and maintenance personnel to come up with the curriculum to train the operators and or mechanics that we do have come through with how these facilities operate. You know, the advanced water treatment facilities that are online now and are coming online are very different from traditional wastewater and drinking water facilities. So I think PERC Water saw the need to train operators on how these facilities actually operate, because the systems that we utilize are very different and they're more complex. So, you know, we've taken successfully a couple of students from LA Trade Tech. I'm sure Dr. Shields will get into. We've brought them through the internship program and actually hired them on full time as employees here. Unfortunately, they left for other facilities, but the knowledge and training that they gained working with us obviously prepared them for the next step in their career. But I believe that what we're doing here is important from a standpoint that, you know, these, not only the aging workforce that we have retiring out, but it's the complexity of these facilities coming online that is important for us to train these operators and or mechanics on how these facilities actually operate.
Absolutely. And then I'm going to have the same question for you. What advice do you have for folks who are joining us today in your position on becoming a great partner? How do you identify opportunities, and what do you do to take those first steps? What are your recommendations?
Well, I think, again, the biggest thing is that these facilities that are coming online are different than anything else that people have operated in the past. Now, Orange County, I believe West Basin, San Diego, I know they have the pure water facilities opening up down there. These facilities are not standard, you know, they're not something that has been taught before. So, you know, the operators of these facilities have to understand that you need to get a trained workforce in there to properly operate these plants and these systems. So, you know, they need to go to their upper management. They need to go to the water districts themselves and explain to them that, you know, you need to start training these people to operate these plants, or, you know, you're going to have problems. So that's the one big thing that I can come up with is, you know, these facilities are nothing like we've seen coming online before.
And I imagine with technology, we're going to have a lot more to learn with technology and how things have changed. And now we're looking at a new green and blue economy. You know, I don't think you're going to have a lack of things to teach.
Oh no, there's plenty for us to teach them, and there's plenty more for us to learn. The new processes that are coming online and then that are planned in the pipeline are some of the most advanced systems coming out. So, you know, the standard knowledge base of operators now is not sufficient to operate these current facilities that are coming online.
Great. Well, thank you, Steve. We'll come back to you for questions. I think next up, We're going to save Bert, I think, for the end, our working operator. And let's go to Dr. Virgil Shields. Dr. Shields?
Okay, I had to unmute myself. Yes, myself and my colleagues are running our CTE programs at Trade Tech. Now, Trade Tech has basically been fundamentally a career technical education school from the beginning. So that forms a major part of our efforts to get students educated and give them a career. My area in our programs is the physics, the process technology, and engineering component. My colleague, Rachel Harper, Dr. Rachel Harper, she'll introduce her side, but she handles the bulk of the other parts of our outreach program: chemistry, biotechnology, chemical technology analysis programs. Now, to sort of answer your part of your question about how we get these things going, is that it takes a lot of effort. Okay, today, we're here to try to continue our relationship with the various water industries. Yesterday, we were at another energy producing company, which has hired interns from Trade Tech who are now employees in order to maintain and establish that relationships. Last week, I was dealing with Chevron and dealing with Phillips 66 to make sure to work out internships. And for example, just out of tenacity, we have Chevron, which promotes every one of our graduates that comes out and actually hires them. We have had almost 100% hiring rate, for example, to Chevron in El Segundo. So it takes a lot of effort to do this. Now, our programs that we produce, which Dr. Harper will give you a nice little overview of this one really quickly, is to provide students with a broad background. And in order to provide students with a broad background of fundamental understanding so that they can basically go anywhere, we ourselves have to be up to date with what's going on in industry, which requires participating in panels, continuing our own education, and making sure that we understand what the needs are, and talking with our customers, which are the companies that are going to hire our students. Okay, now, and one of the things we're going to talk about today is how we communicate better between our companies. We establish a relationship between ourselves and our companies, so the companies can tell us what they really need in detail, so we don't just send students which may or may not have the proper education. We want to send students which have the requirements that companies want. Okay, and in order to do that, they really need to have time. They need to have exposure in industry, and that's what the internships give them. Internships gives them the exposure, the experience that allow them to come on board and be able to be trainable off the bat. And so that's very important for us here to make sure that we're up to date on our skills and make sure so that we can share what's really necessary with our students as they progress through our program. And so
That's a wonderful overview. So my question for you, my one question for our panelists, and then obviously we'll open up. Clearly, you've said it takes a lot of effort. And for some of us who continue to add more responsibilities and more responsibilities, I'm curious what drives you to put in that extra effort, because it's no small amount. What is it that drives you?
Well, one thing here, I find that I can share a lot with some of my students who they're now in the program here. They're not in the normal pathway. They're not in a 4-year educational program at the present time, but they're coming back in. They're trying to get themselves back on track in the most case. And again, having come from South Central Los Angeles myself and understanding how easy it is to get sidetracked. Okay, I can share the difficulties that I had in getting to where I am and to show them that they can do it no matter where they are in their present state. And it just seems the excitement I get from seeing my students come back to me and they show me their employee badge with their name on it. And they're just so happy that now they have a career, that they can actually function, they can do things. And the way we do it is to focus on fundamental understanding as to how things work. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to go off into the exalted heights of anything. That they're going to get that training at the company, but they have a basic understanding as to how things work. Okay, how to prepare paperwork, how to do documentation, how to understand the mechanics of the functioning of the basic equipment. Okay, they're going to be successful. Okay, they're going to, and our job is to teach them that they do have those fundamental skills, those life skills that they've used to survive to get to this point, are really valuable and they're useful. And so that's part of our job in getting them to the point in which they believe in themselves.
Yeah, and that is extremely powerful. I tell you, some people here know my background and some don't, but I was raised very poor and I didn't have a ton of opportunity. I know that's probably coming as a surprise, but I didn't even know what I wanted to do because I didn't know what was available to me. I knew that my family was roofers. I could be a roofer or, and it isn't until someone steps in and says, you can do whatever you want to do. And we're going to walk you through the steps that you don't know, that your family doesn't know, that no one's taught you up to this point, to contribute to something even bigger. And you do have to know that you have that. And this last Martin Luther King Day, I learned something that I hadn't learned before. And I was listening to one of his speeches and he said, we're asking people to pull up their bootstraps and they don't even have boots. And that just shook me. And it resonated with my history. And so what you're doing matters because it means that we're creating opportunity for all our people, no matter where they hail from, no matter, everybody has a chance when someone like you steps in and gives them the understanding and the opportunity that we can all do this together. So thank you for your commitment. Moving on to Dr. Harper.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. So echoing what Dr. Shields was talking about and the idea that students have choices. The way our program's designed, if a student's coming in for process tech, they typically want to work in petroleum. If they're coming in for biotech, they've heard about it. If they're coming in for chem tech, they know they can get jobs somewhere. But we don't want students to be siloed into a program when they don't actually know what the job entails. So our overall organization, and Monica and Daryl Ramos at West Basin and Eric at PERC have been foundational to this, is every student coming in takes a class purely focused on industry exploration. And for us, the first time the student sees that company, when someone comes out and speaks to them about the career pathways, it's now a goal to get into that organization from day one. They're now working towards that. So semester one, we have an industry exploration class involving industrial safety and field trips or like employer presentations. Semester two, we're working on job skills and we're hearkening back to that first meeting. Where do you want to go? What skills have you developed in working towards this goal? The cherry on top is the internship at PERC at West Basin. And right now, we're really busy because there's huge 3 large employment opportunities that are all competing for the same students. Electrical is desperate for people, water is facing a silver tsunami, and biotech is exploding. So the first group that can give the students an internship and access, and they're really interested. I have to laud all of the water programs on that. There's really, really clear pay transparency, but then they run headlong into the 1,800-hour requirement. And how to navigate getting that experience. I did some searching and it says, well, you could work at a T2 facility. I'm a PhD researcher, so I'm going to type in T2 facilities in Los Angeles, but our students typically are just like, well, I can get a job in biotech. And we really want them to have choices. And this partnership, working with Monica, working with Eric, working with our instructor for the employment, the industry exploration class, with WRD, with Daryl Ramos Young has come out and presented every semester, has really been foundational to pipelining these students. I think WEEA has an opportunity as a larger organization to start to speak to leadership at the very confusing and very large amount of agencies and districts about the model that WRD has run and the overall success. We want our students to have choices. Tiffany, if you can give me sharing privileges for a file, it's a lot. So I've put together a quick overview of our programs. We initially, in talking to Eric, we have a water program at Trade Tech, but he was saying that some of the things that were missing from that training were operator interface training, PNIDs, and understanding of the mechanical advantage and the physics and the chemistry. And we said, oh, well, great. Our program 100% involves that and requires a chemistry and biology class to graduate. So they have some understanding of these more advanced treatment systems. We can send them to take water classes, and that's what we've been doing. We see what an amazing opportunity this is for the students and are working to open their eyes to water opportunities and giving them an education plan where during the intersession, they go take some water classes and then they come back and they finish out their certificate with us. And it's been transformational. The students, the students are moving on to other organizations because those are the openings, but they're word of mouth telling everyone who's coming behind them, like, you know, that your family could be roofers. If we can start to seed the pot, that's how students end up in our program, is someone in their family went to process tech or they hear about how supportive they are. So it really has been an amazing relationship, and it's a lot of running around, but what drives us is allowing the students to have choices. That's why anybody wants to make money, is so they can choose where they live, what school they go to, what their kids like. Those choices are what's lacking in most cases, and opening those choices up to students. If you work hard and you follow through and you show up, these are the opportunities that are available, is why we show up every day.
I love that. I love that you said transformational. Speaking from a line of roofers or construction workers, you know, I look back and think about how naive I was to the rest of the world. Like, it was just never presented. And so when it's time to graduate or whatever, you know, you're like, well, I got to get to work because I've got a family that I need to support. I've got responsibilities. And so I don't have time to figure out who needs me to do what. I just better get to work. And when someone steps in and says, this opportunity is going to change your life, and it's going to change the trajectory of your history, your generational understanding is going to change with you. That's just really powerful. And I think sometimes as water industry folks, you know, we have, and energy industry folks, we haven't had to actively recruit because our people stay for 50 years, you know, and now we're at a point where we're going to need to actively recruit. And it's time that we open those opportunities up to everybody and offer everybody the opportunity to choose. Exactly what you said. What can I do? What is it? What we have got over 200 careers.
Well, and I think that's really important, right? Because academically, in a normal academic environment, the party line is college or you're done.
Yes.
And so having the students listen to presenters, do internships, and to have that choice. In my experience, students are kind of over college. They don't want to get $40,000 in debt. And if it's college or you're done, if that doesn't feel right to you, there's no real path presented, right? But some of the smartest people I know are working in water treatment and doing thermodynamics and physics and flow and plumbing and like industrial mechanics and chemistry. So it's amazing the amount of concepts. So it's also, once students are exposed, the kids are like, no, I'm going to get my engineering degree. That's a trade. I'm going to be an academic. Start to see just how talented and complicated the problems that are being solved are, how positively impactful to their overall community, to their environment, the mobility of the fact that every municipality in the United States has a water program is huge. And this partnership with WRD, being part of the ad hoc workforce, working with West Basin, working with all of the different municipalities has really helped us to highlight that to students. I have an overview of our programs and our classes. I just need to be able to share in the chat. So I can either email it to you, Tiffany, or throw it up.
Yeah, throw it in the chat, but I believe you can share screen. You want to give that a try. And if you don't see that option, Sarah or Katie, can
I
you
can
make sure that there's an option?
absolutely
Share screen.
share screen. So this is
Great.
what I would like to throw in the chat. Let me make this big. It's long, which is why I can throw it up. When we reach out to high schools, we're kind of high level highlighting our 3 programs. All 3 programs, our biomanufacturing is taking classes with Dr. Shields to learn about instrumentation and large industrial processes. Chemical technology is a perfect pipeline into environmental testing, and process technology really does prepare students. So this is what we present to any of our outreach on this high level, what these different fields do. Our program is set up so that the first thing students can learn is an 11-unit stackable certificate, which is focused on core skills, documentation, industrial safety, industry exploration, teamwork, basic employment skills, hands-on labs in biomanufacturing with batch records, and learning about regulatory agencies, just core skills for any regulated industry. Students then add chemistry and biology, and then they start to specialize. So every graduate from all 3 programs has these core skills, a chemistry class and a biology class. The 11-unit is what we're offering from a dual enrollment standpoint. So we have 10th graders coming in and starting in Process Tech 104, being exposed to the water industry early. They then the next semester take 214 to start to learn how to prepare for internships, how to sell themselves, how to interview, and Biotech 10 over the summer. We're graduating 10th graders in the 11th grade with their 11-unit certificate, and whether they go on to engineering or biology or chemistry and get a bachelor's, they're aware that these opportunities exist in water, which I think is really important because there's no one at UCLA who's selling water careers, right? So this has been really helpful. And 13 out of 16 of these hours are offered online, so we can partner. The 3 hours has to be a lab. We're on campus hands-on. They add Chem 51 and Bio 3 in the summers. So in summer, if you're a full-time student, you've already completed the 11-unit semester 1, you can do an intersession and pick up these guys and continue on into, if you're in a process tech focus, process measurement and fundamentals. We're learning about process variables and instrumentation, process plant systems, introduction to the large systems, and Dr. Shields and Professor Sutton teach these classes, and physics in semester 2. So this entire program for a associate can be completed in a year and a half full time. The certificate can be completed in a year and a half if that's their focus, and they can go back and do their general ed to get their associates. In the chem tech focus, they've already completed their course classes. They've got their chemistry and their bio. They're starting to look into sample and data collection, and we're teaching them advanced instrumentation, data analysis, sample collection. They're learning basic organic chemistry. So I imagine part of the retiring workforce is working in the labs. And the Chemtech is really, really suited to that. Intersession 2 will typically send students who, having been introduced to water by Daryl, by Eric, by us, telling them about water programs. A lot of process technology students want to work in petroleum, and we try to open their eyes to water as an opportunity. We're going to send them in the intersession to take water classes. So their students go to school year round. They don't take a break, they keep going. We'll send them to the water classes over the summer to get some foundational training and to try out, is water for me? Am I starting to work towards my certificate? And in their final semester in process tech, this is, I really think, something that sets the process tech program apart. Dr. Shields has the students in a simulation, simulating the operator interface and troubleshooting problems. So taking that schematic, translating it to a fault, and deciding what to do next. These are really active, engaged classes. That's, and generally going over, and I'll swing back to Dr. Shields. Do you want to talk about the process tech classes, Dr. Shields?
Yeah, a major part of our class is to give people hands-on experience. And again, because again, you can't really really understand how to really work on equipment unless you know how to use the fundamental things, screwdrivers and other things like that. I've been surprised that a number of students have no experience basically with screwdrivers, or how they've never really taken things apart, but some have. And the ones who have are very good at it, but yet they don't believe in themselves. So again, I have to connect what they do with what they're going to see in industry. And so in our classes, our equipment classes, we have our labs, And our labs are duplication to some extent to training that I see with our various industry partners. I've actually made a number of things after interacting with training with the trainers at various companies. I've actually duplicated a number of their pieces of equipment. And when I have funds, I pay the students to help me put things together for the trainers. Now, in our 102 class, one important thing is dealing with process diagrams. And again, for me, I have to be up on top of that one. And again, for example, in a little month and a half, I will be giving a workshop for the Department of Sanitation to train them, their engineers and technicians, on process diagrams, which is how I keep myself up to date by being at the level of industry. So once they have those skills, then in our 204 class, we are developing an interface. They're actually interfacing with using computer operations to actually run simulated facilities and understanding, getting more and more complex and starting to understand troubleshooting, starting up facilities, shutting down facilities, and that leads them into 202. And we've just enhanced our software by pulling in desalination software programs. So it gives them a 3D, a virtual reality of going into the facility and being inside and outside operators at the same time. And so the idea is to get as close of an experience to the real world as possible. Okay, so we are continuing to morph and develop this based upon our interaction with our industrial partners.
Echoing that, the beautiful segue, Virgil. On the Chemtech side, they're continuing in Chemtech 142 to quantitative and instrumental analysis. In 143, we've modified the class somewhat. So we've compacted the organic chemistry into one semester. And in 143, we're using that as a capstone class. So the students are taking the standards for the treatment of standard methods for the treatment of water and wastewater and being asked to do several analyses, but pick which method they're going to use, plan out their work, write the SOPs, plan out their overall process. I think a big thing that separates our programs from a lot of the more academic programs is we all have PhDs, but we all also have worked in industry. So training the students that no one is going to pay you to do homework, that being wrong is a normal part of the process. It's your job to figure out why. It's not one test and you're done. It's an iterative process, right? Troubleshooting. The students have to put together Gantt charts to tell me when they're going to be doing their work in the lab. And you have finite lab hours. Chemistry costs money at the front and back end. Lab space costs money. And at the end, they have to stand up and present their findings, present their report, and do a deep dive into, does that seem reasonable, right? So we really are trying to mimic some of the skills and give them a chance to fail, to fall flat on their face. When we do mock interviews in our employment skills class, if a student misses the interview, they're done. They don't get a second chance. And I'm like, you see that sinking feeling in your gut right now? You know how that feels awful? That's why we're doing this for practice. That's your lesson today. Never miss an interview, right? So we really are trying to give students, we're unique and super lucky in that we have such amazing partners who we can go through all this. We'll do all this work all day if it results in better prepared students and opportunities. And water has shown up for that 100%. I think it's just where WEEA can really help is helping the water municipalities and the schools navigate this process. If we were on our end, we're happy to write certificates. If there's a standard set of skills that are going to be needed for these new treatment facilities, and we can codify that into a certificate, other schools will follow suit. There used to be one biotech program. There are now biotech programs in every community college because they can see the employment opportunities. And the only standard you have to have is industry approval and show that you're not oversaturating the workforce. I don't think we're anywhere near there. So if partnering with the community colleges, there is a certificate opportunity, the job postings are listing out to this particular certificate to get the internship, to get the 1,800 hours, to have a direct path in, other colleges will copy that process. They'll follow that and use it as a model. And you suddenly help to deal with the huge shortfall of qualified people who are going to be coming your way in the future.
Yeah. Dr. Harper and Dr. Shields, one question for two different audiences. clearly you're doing a lot to prepare our next generation of industry workers. What do you want to say to water industry leaders? What do you want to say to maybe high school teachers that will make your job easier? What can we do to make your job easier? Because clearly you're getting the students and you're doing a great deal, but there may be some things that are lacking at the front end or at the final process. What would you say to water industry? What would you say to high school teachers to better prepare students or engage students in careers and bringing them to you?
I think if we can, go ahead, Virgil.
I'm gonna let you take that one here because you got, aside from the fact that my email is wrong in there.
Oh, sorry.
In
Well,
the
my
contact.
name is misspelled, so we're good to go. So I think that on the high school side, the high school teachers are already really invested, right, in trying to navigate 5,000 standards. So allowing outreach, and we're working with them, they're spectacular. On the
Right.
water side, the clearer the path is for the student, the more likely it is for the student to take that path. So if there is some way to codify this core set of skills, this set of classes, this local certificate, this state certificate, gets you access to an internship program. The more internship programs you have, the more students you're going to be able to employ. Trying to explain to a student, I hit a wall, and I've been working with everybody for like 5 years. It's not clear to me how a student gets 1,800 hours if they're not working with PERC, right? Those internships are hugely important. And so saying a T2 facility, I still don't know where the T2 facilities are in Los Angeles, and just clarifying that path. I think getting students into the internship immerses them with people who understand how to navigate this whole complicated system.
Yeah.
And can be their mentor in making their next step.
Yeah, it sounds like that's definitely something with this group that we can work on. Now that we see that there's a problem, and these opportunities aren't clear, this pathway isn't clear, and that's one of the, what we do is we take step by step and we just chip away, right? What is the problem? What can we work on it? And eventually we're going to solve it. So it looks like you've given us something to work on. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, it's very important for industry to tell us what they really need, because again, we train students, and again, our programs need to develop and morph. They need to evolve according to the needs of the companies where our students are going out to. I just can't tell you how many students have gone again and again to different companies thinking they have the proper credentials, and they fail, and they don't get any feedback from that one. And so in companies, they'll go and they say, well, we need more people. Okay, so they need to tell us exactly what the incoming employees need to have in order to get hired. Okay, and not just use cryptic terms like certification this, certification that. They need to tell us exactly what kind of skills the people for the incoming students.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was still sharing.
Great. Well, I'm sure we'll have some more questions for you in just a little bit. We're going to end with our final panelist, Bert Mantilla Jr., who was an intern with the Water Replenishment District and now works for PERC Water. Bert, are you with us?
Yes, hi, I'm Bert Mantilla Jr. I'm an AWTF operator, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about your experience as an intern. How did you get in? How did you get interested in this job? And where have you gone? Where have you ended? How have you ended up here?
So I'm sure like very many young adults, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I was 18, 20. I decided to join the military. I did my 7 years of active duty. I got out and I wanted to try something different, but I wasn't sure. So then I had a family member tell me about operators retiring and not having their jobs, their spots filled. And I should try looking into the water technology certification, or, contact a counselor or an advisor. And so I took that jump. I tried it out. I did my process through Citrus College. I contacted the counselor. They broke it down with my educational plan to get the water cert for water technology. And I got that pretty quick, and I started applying to different facilities, different agencies. And I said, to myself, you know what, you might as well just go for the associates and keep going in the meantime. So I did that, and I obtained my my associates in water technology. I got sent was a bulletin for Perk Water about the internship. I applied for that and sent my resume in, and I heard back pretty quickly, and I got picked up, and now I just did about a year and 3 months as a water operator here at Perk.
That's amazing. So if you could give the folks here on this meeting, on this call, some advice about how to recruit, how can we do a better job about letting people know that these opportunities are available?
I just feel like this generation, everything's researched. They're, I guess, not really even knowing this occupation exists is probably the disconnect. So I feel like just mainly spreading the word of, this job has great potential with salary, great opportunity, great progression for growth in their career. You can do so many things with it, not just with treatment, water treatment. You can become instrumentation or maintenance, or you can go so many different routes. So yeah, just getting connected in high schools, and just having them reach out to community colleges or universities to see, what's the next step? What can I do to kind of set up a little plan if I want to follow this career.
Yeah, and as a young person who has been in the military and then is transitioning out of the military to a brand new career that you didn't know much about, what inspired you to what were the things about this career that interested you? Why did you consider this out of all of the things that you could have done?
So it was, I heard about the money, not gonna lie. I heard about,
There you go.
It was mainly the drive to get more money. I have a family, so I was like, how can I support my family? While, I'm not sure exactly what I want to major in. I wasn't sure if I want to do chemistry or biology. What are the smaller steps in between that I can do in the meantime until I decide that I can really capitalize on and feel serve my role as a father. So yeah,
you don't have to lie. The money is great.
Yeah.
I think kind of what the theme that we started with our director, and now that we're wrapping up with our newest water treatment operator, is tenacity. Keep going after what you believe is right. Keep finding solutions to whatever your problem is at the front end, in the middle, or at the very end, and just keep going for it. And together, if we're all working together, clearing those pathways, making things clear, making sure we're reaching out and ensuring these opportunities are available, building up our programs, we're going to cover a wide range of needs, from a director at a water district to a newly employed water treatment operator. So thank you, Bert, for providing us some insight, because sometimes I think we wonder, are we using the right language when we're recruiting, right? What is it that motivates people? We just spend a lot of time and energy on recruitment brochures that, again, we haven't had to recruit in forever. So we made those widely available. But what kind of things drive a person like you to consider these careers that truly are life-changing? So thank you for your insight. Okay, we're going to open it up to questions and we'll have the whole panel brought back.
Tiffany, there was one question in the chat earlier. John had a question.
Great. What is the question, Nate or John?
Yes, I was just curious. When our first speaker was talking about the new operator skill set, how it's changed so much. I'm just wondering how much of that is automation and mechatronics or industrial mechanics. Yeah, Steve, right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, it's a combination of both, actually. We do see a lot of automation coming online that obviously some of the older operators aren't familiar with. A lot of valves and pumps were before it was manual. It is automated now. The processes themselves are more technical in the sense that we have to abide by certain regulations now, given that the water that we produce is a public health crisis or public health issue, because eventually the water that we produce is going to be drinking, somebody's going to drink that. So we have to be able to monitor our processes from the very beginning all the way to the end. So there's a lot of steps in between that are more complicated, and training people on what to look for and how to operate these systems is crucial to basic public health.
That's great. Thank you, Steve.
Sure.
Walter.
Hi, everyone. I have a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to start with, if I can, with the Dr. Shields and Dr. Harper. Dr. Harper, you mentioned something about that some of your students start at 10th grade. I know there's a high school on your campus because one of the science teachers participated in one of my workshops here. I do the education. I'm in charge of education outreach at Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. So I have a few questions. So one thing, the 10th graders, where are you getting them from? I mean, are they from what high schools are you drawing from, I guess is the question. Is it in person? Is it online? Or, that's one part of the question.
Oh, okay. So large organizations never do anything simply. We don't actually work with the high school on our campus. We work with Huntington Park Institute of Applied Medicine. And that comes from partnerships we already had established with Brian Boyle, who works with Linked Learning for LAUSD. We were able to pilot and sort of address some of the needs. So the classes we're running during the school year are online. They're officially on the calendar, typically asynchronous, on the basis that we don't want to send a bunch of 10th graders to remember that they have 2 learning management systems to navigate and that they have to follow up on this stuff. We schedule around the high school schedule and have a synchronous meeting where we check in with the high school students, make sure that things are making sense, stay on top of them, and keep them moving forward. We've graduated, I think, 10 or 15 high school students now. We started a couple of years ago, right before COVID, and then amped back up and are getting our sea legs back under us post-COVID in completing this 11-unit certificate. So what
is the gentleman's name again at Linked Learning?
Brian Boyle. He's now at LAUSD. Institutionally, coming back from COVID, we're making some changes to our dual enrollment. So what we're trying to do, which is excellent because it fits directly into our programs, is do cohort models and have students focused as a cohort on completing a certificate in health occupations in our 11-unit certificate, offering that to the entire district. Stephanie Esparza at LAUSD is working on a crosswalk of high school and college classes. So if a high school has a CTE program in water, or a high school has a CTE program in industrial engineering, and one of our classes fulfills their CTE requirement, they can get high school and college credit. Dual enrollment is really attractive for the colleges, just being completely transparent. I'm fairly sure the colleges get paid $5K a head for a high school student and $3K a head for a college student. So financially, it makes sense. From the district level, it's really attractive because students, the kids who want to be an engineer, are hungry for college credit. And so we're trying to leverage that to tell them about choices they may not have known they had, right? The students have an internal vision, as Bert was speaking to, of doctor, lawyer, fireman, engineer. They don't know about quality assurance or instrumentation technology or being able to move the mission of Beyond Meat forward by understanding manufacturing processes and being as efficient as possible. So it helps the high school and students getting college credit and seeing other career pathways. It creates a nice transition over. We're working on spreading out to the entire district. We've mainly been working with HPIM, Huntington Park Institute of Applied Medicine at Linda Marquez High School, in figuring out what works best for the high school students and in partnership. And they've been an amazing partner.
Just another thing is, LADP had this class called Introduction to Electricity, which I know your college helped us develop, but it may have been other professors. But I know if you take that class and you pass their certificate, then it enables a student to take 5 civil service entry level classes in the skilled craft within the city of LA, which is basically LADP. Are you guys aware of that? Because I know you guys are more on the water side and this is the power side. So it's probably one of the other professors that I think we work with at LA Trade Tech, because we do both water and power, of course. So
We were not. You were probably working with CMU. Speaking to that, the other initiative that's currently happening is we're trying to start a new employment pathway. So there's the Work Source Center, and any student could come and get a job at Target, right? But in these specialized trades, in these specialized career paths, we're working on having a pathway that's building out that focuses specifically on students who have a stated goal, have completed or near graduation, and need help transitioning into their field, into the trades, into engineering. And so what we're doing is that group is going to be interfacing with employers because they have a wider reach. Dr. Shields and I are really, really collaborative. When students come and say they want to do water, we'll immediately introduce them to John Callow. We'll talk about how to get their path forward. If a student wants to do electrical, we'll do a warm handoff and a warm handshake to make sure that they understand how to navigate our electrical program. We just want students to have access to whatever opportunity is available. The pathway is going to have a high level view of all the programs and a database of all the students and the skills they have. And so we're starting this semester with introducing them to our students so they understand, because our program specifically is working with biotech, electrical, water, petroleum. It's just a huge breadth of different industries, all of whom have fairly specific needs. We want to get them onboarded with those students so they can act as an ally and a resource to show up to outreach events, to work with, to host industry speakers campus wide. Because in addition to all of this, we also both teach full-time teaching loads and have students we're accountable to on that side. So I think that's really promising, and that should be live by fall. There's a couple of really good initiatives in place. So this is a timely conversation because we can leverage that this fall.
the other thing I was thinking of is that in LAUP, our main water facility, our treatment plants are all in the north part of the city, and you guys are in South LA. And I don't know that if the geographic thing is kids were taking classes in your, unless they were going to one of the other community colleges, it's kind of a long way between Trade Tech and North Valley, unless they can take in the courses some of the other community colleges like Pierce or Valley or Mission. I wasn't sure how that plays into all what you guys are working on.
So for the high school students, all of our classes during the school year are online, and we set it up after school. In the summers, we have them come out to campus for the biotech class, which is hands-on lab skills and bacterial growth and expression on documentation, calibrating the lab instrumentation, calibrating pipettes, calibrating, doing pH, doing titration. Sorry, I'm trying to think about things biotech does. That one of the reasons why we're also partnering with the Amgen Biotech Experience, which is an inroads for students to understand careers in biotech, which can lead into water. Part of why Amgen wanted to partner with us is we are directly across the street from the metro. So the summer classes, students can take the train out, get off, and walk across one half of the street to our campus. We're really centrally located. We are happy to work with other colleges. So on the biotech side, if a student wants to work in proteins and more advanced biotech, not biomanufacturing, we send them to Pierce. we are happy to collaborate with other colleges. We're really good friends with Rio Hondo. We see each other in meetings, and the end goal is there's no shortage of opportunities. We would like to be good partners so that employers keep coming back to us, so that we are aware of the opportunities and can pipeline our students there, which is why we show up to things like this, because we really believe in presenting opportunities to our students and being aware of what's happening so we can better prepare them.
But one thing I'd like to clarify, that one of the benefits of being in the LA Community College District is that all 9 campuses, the students are, they have a home campus, but they can attend classes across the entire district. And this has been a big benefit during the past when we have online classes, which makes it easy, no matter where the student is, to take programs and connect programs that'll give them lead them ultimately to a certificate or graduation.
And what's so important about that, I think when we consider what barriers students have to get their education, to get their training, to get their jobs, when we collaborate and we offer across multiple different entities, ways for them to do that, we're breaking down barriers. And I think that's important for all of us to remember. You know, there are some students who it's a challenge for them to you know, take care of their family and then hop on a bus and travel however long the distance is to get a training opportunity. And then, you know, their job is maybe in the Inland Empire. They're going to, you know, just understanding what a student must navigate and just being very aware of that, because if there's a reason why we poach from each other. Not only are these people trained, but their training opportunities are far away. They may live in a different county and their job opportunity may be completely in another county. So what can we do to make sure that all of our counties are rich with education opportunities? You know, we're taking care of our people so they can have a living wage, and ensuring that they have access to these resources, you know, not as a handout, but as a hand up. And that's just what we do for each other. Soapbox off. Okay. Walter, Walter, did you have anything else?
I think that was it, because I think there was someone else at the college that we because like I said, the introduction to electricity we had heard was taught in class at Trade Tech, but then you could take it online in the high school students. But I think it's probably another part of the faculty there that we had coordinated with on the development and also the implementation. I have a feeling, but
Yeah, if you still have questions, don't hesitate to contact me here. I'll follow up on it and find out who's actually doing that. Yes, because you have a introduction to engineering class, and again, I'm not quite sure in our program area, applied sciences. But again, we have cross-disciplinary type of activities. Those who are more academic side and laboratory side, and the other industrial side. The trade side. Okay, so the introduction to electricity might be a trade related activity. Okay, so as opposed to on the academic side, process operator side. Okay, so we're right now working very hard to connect these programs across our campus by talking to each other, so that we can share resources and make sure students are properly trained.
One thing that I think would help with recruitment is, as y'all are talking about, you know, more advanced facilities, people needing training, if there's workers in water in our classrooms, right? Part of the most valuable piece of any chemistry class I teach for foundational chemistry is my nursing majors are sharing information in the lab. It's a gigantic networking event, right? So if like I teach a chem class that is in person 1 day a week, that has online office hours that's set up. It starts at 6:30 at night, so everybody can get to class, get to campus, get off work, get their kids fed and come in. But if the water companies were sending their employees to get additional training with us, they're now in the classroom talking to our students and sharing and networking in that way. And that's part of why we cohorted our program, so that they could share opportunities, why we have a program specific LinkedIn page to continue that networking and keep it alive. But if Bert needed chemistry, I'm teaching it, Bert, I'd love to have you. If that was a class that people needed, we are happy to coordinate and schedule around when works best for people on shift and get them in our classrooms so they can talk to our other students about their experience and how they got here, which I think serves all of our purposes.
Thank you. I
Jeff,
never
I see
thought
your
of that
hand.
part of it. That's a good idea. I don't know what kind of classes they do. I know there's different levels of, in the operator, there's like, I think 3 or 4 different levels of certificates, right, Bert? I think.
We do have 3 or 4 different levels for certificates. They all stack. So
Right.
the core skills that apply to any industry, documentation, regulatory, teamwork, following directions, discussing things, industrial safety, that's our first certificate. That's the one we're offering for the high school students because it's very general. The adding chemistry and biology increases student skill sets. They have hands-on labs in both classes, and that takes them to the 20 unit. These are the 5, this set of 5 classes is required for chem tech, process tech, and biotech. So what we didn't want was students coming in because they heard about petroleum and process tech, doing a 1.5 year long program and realizing what they actually wanted to do was chem tech or engineering and start over from the top. Every time we go in, every time a presenter presents, we're asking what level of education is necessary. What does your day look like? And oftentimes we find by the end of that discussion, ed plans have changed, which is great. We want to catch it early and get students on the path moving forward rather than having them finish out a certificate and then realize they needed an entire different set of classes to actually achieve their goal. So we're really trying to front load the options and the understanding before someone commits 1.5 years of their life.
What's
Realistically,
the relationship between your certificate and because my understanding is in water operators, there's state exams. I think they may refer to them as certificates too, but there are state exams that they need to qualify to become an operator. It's different. I think there's 4 different levels, as I remember.
Yeah.
that's
In our associated area at Trade Tech here, we have our water systems technology program that we work with. And sorry that John Callow couldn't be here with us today. But which is basically broken down into wastewater and supply water options. And again, there are 4 grades of preparation for the various state certificates that the students are trained for in those classes. So that we have a series of that too. Okay, so that's also available at Trade Tech.
and we actively send students there. So our classes run spring and fall. And we send students during the intersession to go take their first set of water classes. That gets them into John Callow's fold. They now have access to someone who's worked in the water industry and can help them navigate that path. Really what we're training for, I think, is more on the advanced water side with the heavy focus on science and chemistry and industrial processes so that students have access to those opportunities where PERC is working and giving them access to someone who has a deep understanding of water, the water certifications and what they need. And that's been really successful. Our students are getting offers from AQMD, from DWP, from LAD, Department of Sanitation, once they finish. The key thing I think you can offer high school or college students is a clear path. They're burnt out on the get a bachelor's, get in debt, and everything will be okay without any sort of clear guarantee on what is the end result. And I think they're being more informed consumers, a person who can most clearly show them how you get from start to finish and where you'll be in 2 years is the group that's going to win at recruitment.
Thank you, Walter. I'm going to move on to Jeff since he has his hand raised. And I do have a whole bunch of questions for this panel that came through upon registration. So I'll send those over to Monica, if that's okay. And maybe we can get those questions answered and send them out to the group maybe later this week would be great. Jeff.
Oh, awesome. So raising my hand finally paid off. Great discussion, everybody. I actually less a question and more a comment, because I think between Bert and Tiffany and Dr. Lupio, you brought up something from a previous life when I worked at Lockheed Martin that I would put out to the group to maybe think about. Is aerospace was in a very similar situation, or is, with the silver tsunami. And, you know, Lockheed is an organization that's sending satellite missions to Mars and doing all these amazing things that are really inspiring to kids. And there's nothing like sort of space and aerospace to really get a certain group excited. But I think Bert's comment about just not being aware of these types of jobs and careers. You know, Tiffany and I have been talking a lot about career awareness is sort of the starting point. It's hard to build understanding and relevance until you build awareness. But the idea is maybe we used to say, let's get them in the family. And it sort of goes back to Dr. DeLupio's point about get them in the fold. I think one of the things that the team on the call here could be thinking about is how do we build awareness for careers that are in this general area where you can eventually poach them. They may not be pure water industry, but what you don't want them to be is to go off and be like YouTube influencers or go work in high tech or go work in these other places where it's going to be very, very hard to recruit from that talent pool downstream. So if you have a strategy of building awareness and getting these students kind of in your extended family, then I think your silver tsunami starts to fade away because you'll have a much larger and much more diverse talent pool to recruit from that's you know, in the fold, in the family. So as you're thinking about strategizing moving forward, I definitely would encourage that piece because we're working on a lot of that as well to get them into certain families like water so you can actually have a really large and diverse talent pool. Anyway, I'll leave you with that thought. It's a great discussion. Thanks for the opportunity to comment and attend.
And that was a great comment, Jeff. I think that's why it's so important to start early, so students understand that these jobs exist. Middle school is not too early, high school, so that they can begin their path and they're ready by the time they graduate. They're ready. And we have students who are invested. They know what to expect. You know, we couldn't ask for a better plan of action than to start early instead of to hurriedly trying figure out how we're going to fill these positions. So thank you for your comment.
Yeah, totally agree. And I mean, just as a thought to leave you with is they can't pursue these careers if they don't know they exist in the first place. I mean, it's a super simple way of saying it, but that's why it's so fundamental. So I definitely appreciate it. Thanks.
Tiffany, can I say something?
Yes, please.
It's what I always say this to everyone I talk to, but we do a really good job of talking to people about the water industry, to people in the water industry. You know what I mean? We have so many discussions, and I mean, Adrian Hightower, he's in this, you know, in this meeting, and we've talked about it to death, I think. But I think there really needs to be a campaign out there that's just gonna, you know, showcase all of these careers, whether it be a water operator or an accountant. You know, an accountant is still needed in the water industry regardless. But I think something that's really gonna get out there is, you know, we all have to get together and really focus on how to make these jobs attractive to the students. And a lot of students nowadays don't want to do the 4-year career, you know, the 4-year college. They want something quick that's going to allow them to make money right away. So I think, you know, maybe working together, creating some sort of outreach plan that really is going to start with elementary school to middle school. And, you know, just planting that little seed, I think, is very important early on.
I would like to reply. So I think, and this is a dream of mine, there is a group called NR. They're working with the Santa Clarita Water District and a variety of adult schools. They're a set of journalists who come in and interview people and then tell the story of someone's path. And I think that really resonates. So my dream in life is that we get people like Bert, right, who are talking about how did I stumble into water? Where am I now? And that firsthand human interest story explaining that. And then you translate that into Tagalog and Hmong and Spanish and Armenian, stick it in newspapers and kids' backpacks, which they are not going to look at, but their parents will, right? Getting the word out. I think that first person story of how I ended up here is so much easier to understand than no matter how many times we talk about these are the careers in water, because Bert's insanely talented and has this awesome career and not probably have a traditional path and wake up one day and be like, I'm going to work in water. That's my plan. Right. So I think I'll post a link for that. They're currently working in Santa Clarita, but I really think this journalistic approach and the storytelling approach is the way we make lasting materials that will have an impact and will change parents' minds about a pathway. I mean, my best friend is in Belgium right now with Intel. And when she graduated, her parents wanted her to open a beauty salon because that was a stable career that they understood. They did not understand why she was getting a PhD. She's first generation Salvadoreña, and they just wanted her to be able to take care of herself. She's now killing it at Intel, but she was going against parental advice in doing that. So I think opening parents' eyes as well would be really, really helpful.
And if I can call you Dr. Rachel.
Well, you can call me Rachel. It's totally fine.
It's okay. The brochures that we created were because of another speaker's dream. So that you're here today and putting it out in the universe, I think that's something that we can certainly take a look at and focus on, because it just takes somebody to say, I think this is a good idea, or Monica saying, I think we need a campaign. If we don't hear those ideas, we don't, we can focus on all kinds of things, but it's little things like this that actually end up being an extremely big resource and an innovative solution to some of our collective problems. So thank you for sharing your dream. And it's something that I think that we need to take a look at. Same, Monica, maybe we can put together an advisory and take a look at what that might entail.
By the way, I wanted to mention, like, I don't know if you can hear me, that the website on the energy brochure, which you so ably found, the Center for, I think it's called the Center for Workforce Energy Development. I was on a think tank with them, as it turned out, last fall, and they're a consortium. I think the head of it is a staff person with the Edison Electric Institute, but it's a consortium of energy utilities, contractors, even energy producers, coal companies, you name it, across the board in energy. And they're in the process of launching a nationwide media campaign on careers in energy. And I didn't know about the website. And when I looked up on your brochure, you hit I don't know how you found them, but it's a terrific website. But it's part of the same organization where I was on. I think one of my colleagues at the Department of Water and Power had discovered them and asked me to serve on this think tank. And so they were gathering ideas from about 40 people around the country as to what components of the campaign should be. So I think on the water side, isn't the website, is that AWWA, American Water Works Association?
Yeah, Work for
So
Water.
it might not be a bad idea to, I don't know what components of, they might be something to consider to see what they've got going, if there anything in terms of campaigns that they're looking at that we could tie into. I mean, we don't want to have to, I'm not aware of it, but the fact that they have that website, maybe there's something we could partner with or something.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you for that. Bill Andrews, your hand was up. Did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I just wanted, thanks, Tiffany. I wanted to sort of dovetail with Monica's comment about, typically, water agencies or energy agencies, they're good at talking with each other. But I think in order to really ratchet up the attention and the concern that everybody has about silver tsunamis happening in a number of industries, we need people like Director Calderon. I would love to see him connect with other directors and other major agencies, in Walter's agency, at LADWP, Metropolitan, and so on, and have a summit. That's what I want to suggest, is that WEEA get together with some other of the major agencies and say, let's have a summit and bring together the district superintendents from our different, LA Unified, from Orange County and so on. Get the superintendents there talking with industry people, because I feel like there's lots of awareness at the lower levels of all these different agencies, but upstairs they're not feeling the urgency, and if they're feeling it, they sure aren't communicating it to their folks in workforce development. And so I would suggest that you've got to create awareness vertically as well as horizontally. I think there's pretty good awareness horizontally, but vertically, the folks way at the top and the boards of directors are not understanding the urgency that's facing the future of employment. You know, I mean, we just need to get kids excited about this. And I love the examples that were brought today about reaching down into the high schools, getting kids involved in dual enrollment, helping them understand you don't have to pour out a lot of money in order to get connected to a community college. I think it's fantastic what the example was done today.
Yeah, and you know, Bill, you and I have, I mean, Bill is, for those who don't know, the founder of WEEA back in 2018. You and I have talked for a very long time about not having the data that we need to make this important to leadership. And when Director Calderon was talking about what we could do to secure that interest and secure that support is provide real examples, provide real information, real data that says we're in trouble if we don't start making this a priority. And I can tell you this report is, as you know, very, very much anticipated, and we're already starting to book conferences. So I expect that once we have data to back up our claims and to back up our pleas, leadership has no choice, as Director Calderon said, but to pay attention. And, and the folks on this panel and the people in this room have tenacity, and I think that's what we need to hold on to, because that's how we're continuing to move the needle, even though it may be at not as quick a pace as we hope that it is. So thank you for your comment. I'd like to thank our entire panel today. You have been just so wonderful and so open, sharing your experience, your expertise. Bert, Monica, Steve, Dr. Shields, and I'm going to say Dr. Rachel. I won't even call you Rachel. Just such a very lively and enriching conversation to help us consider what our next steps may be. So thank you so much for joining us today. Monica, I will send you a list of questions. Maybe you can grab the team here together to help answer some of those so we can send those out to our attendees. We do have a few minutes if anyone has some good news to share. I was going to call on a couple folks, but I noticed they weren't in the room with us. But if you have some good news or some announcement about work that you're doing in your area and you have something to share, please raise your hand or let us know in the chat. And I don't think Danielle with CMUA is here, and I don't think Lisa Dye with Inland Empire is here, but we'll bring them back another time to make sure that they share their good news. Okay, well, we'll end a little bit early then today. Thank you for joining us for our Leadership Roundtable number 13. As I mentioned at the top of the hour, at the top of our meeting, Leadership Roundtable number 14, we're bringing back the Centers of Excellence. We're the very first presentation they're providing on the statewide water and wastewater workforce needs assessment survey, the results and what their recommendations are. So please save the date for that and give our team a couple of days to put together something that you can share with your networks, because this is going to be quite big for industry. We've been waiting for this data for a long time. I want to give a shout out to our 2022-23 WEEA sponsors, as we usually do: the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, Eastern Municipal Water District, Water Replenishment District, Western Municipal Water District, and continuing, we're just very grateful for the continued support from the California Environmental Education Foundation, Big Picture Learning, and California Community Colleges. So thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on March 28th.